My daughter said she cared for me, but in reality she was preparing my disappearance. I was 68 years old when the call came. It was a Tuesday afternoon, gray and damp, and I was folding towels in the kitchen. The phone rang with the mechanical insistence that always set my nerves on edge. On the line was the bank. "Mrs. Howard," the voice said, too polite, too careful. "We detected an application this morning to transfer your savings into a new joint account. The request appears signed by you. We need to confirm the authorization." For a moment I could not breathe. My hands went cold against the cotton fabric. I had signed nothing. No papers, no applications. My savings were the only security I had left from 40 years of teaching. From every overtime shift, every penny pinched. Those funds were for my heart treatment and for the little summer cottage my late husband and I had dreamed of. "No," I said slowly, the words scraping out of my throat. "I did not authorize this. I did not sign anything." The clerk hesitated, then assured me the transaction would be frozen until they received confirmation. When the call ended, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the calendar, my pulse loud in my ears. That evening, as if on cue, my daughter arrived. She breezed into my apartment with a too bright smile, carrying papers already arranged neatly in a folder. She said she had a solution that would make everything easier. "Mom, you cannot keep managing all this yourself," she began, her voice dripping with practiced concern. "It would be so much safer if you just gave me power of attorney. For convenience. You would not have to worry about a thing." Her eyes rested on me, expectant, coaxing. She slid the folder across the table. I stared at the papers. My hands trembled, but my voice was steady. "I did not ask for convenience," I said. Inside me, something old and wounded stirred. The first warning that love was not what she was offering me. I sat alone long after my daughter left, the unsigned paper still lying on my kitchen table like a threat. My heart pounded not just from fear, but from the sudden clarity of what was at stake. If I had not picked up the phone, if the clerk had not been cautious, my life's work, every dollar saved through 40 years of labor, would have been gone. The sum was not enormous to the world, but it was everything to me. $182,400 in my savings account, accumulated slowly from my teacher's pension and the modest inheritance left by my husband. That money was my shield. It was for the cardiologist who had told me I might need a procedure within 2 years. It was for the summer cottage outside of Ashford, the one place where I still imagined breathing freely without the city pressing against me. I thought of all the sacrifices behind those numbers. The shoes I wore until the soles cracked. The nights I skipped dinner so my daughter could go on school trips. The envelope of cash I gave her when she started college, telling her it was from both of us, though her father was already gone by then. Every corner cut, every indulgence denied, was written into that balance. And in one morning it could have been stripped away by a forged signature. As I sat there, memories came unbidden, little details that I had ignored or excused. The first was her insistence, almost a year ago, that I give her an extra set of keys to my apartment in case of emergency. At the time I thought nothing of it. I wanted to believe she cared. But since then, she had grown more insistent about entering unannounced. I would find the curtains drawn when I had left them open, my papers rearranged, the faint smell of her perfume lingering when she claimed she had not stopped by. Then came the passwords. "Mom, it's too risky to keep your bank login so simple," she had said, almost scolding. "Let me reset it for you." I let her because computers exhausted me and she spoke with such certainty. But after that, I could never quite manage to access my accounts without her assistance. Each time she shook her head with an indulgent smile. "It's okay, you wouldn't understand these things anymore." And there were the remarks, always subtle, always framed as concern. "You forget things so easily these days. You don't really need to go out with those friends. It's too tiring for you. Do you really think you can handle managing all this paperwork?" Words that seemed protective but left me smaller each time. Diminished in my own home. The loneliness deepened with every hint. Friends I had known for decades began to drift away because I declined invitations, often under her persuasion. "It's not safe at night," she would say. "And what if you fall?" I stopped visiting the bridge club, stopped going to the Sunday gatherings at church, until silence filled the rooms of my apartment. What gnawed at me most was her tone when she spoke of my savings. Casual, dismissive, but edged with hunger. What are you even keeping all that money for, Mom? You'll never spend it all. Better to put it to good use. The implication was clear. Her use, her future, her comfort. That night, as I brushed my teeth, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My face looked thinner than I remembered, my eyes more tired. I realized how isolated I had become. If something happened to me, if I had fallen prey to that forged account, who would have known? Who would have stood for me? The truth settled into my bones with a chill. I was not just at risk of losing money. I was at risk of disappearing, erased quietly under the guise of being taken care of. I went back to the kitchen table and looked again at the folder my daughter had left. Inside were the blank lines where my name should have been, waiting to tie me to my own undoing. And in my heart the words formed clearly for the first time. If I signed, I would lose not only my savings but my freedom. 2 days later the phone rang again. This time it was not the bank. It was my daughter, her voice high-pitched, brittle with manufactured concern. "Mom, I just got a call," she said quickly without giving me time to reply. "The bank told me they froze your transfer." What happened? Why are they making everything so difficult for us? For us. That was her refrain. Not for me, not for my safety. For us. I listened in silence as she launched into her story. She said she had been only trying to help, that she had set up the account for easier access, that the bank had misunderstood everything. Then came the line delivered like a dagger wrapped in silk. "Do you not trust your own daughter?" It was not really a question. It was an accusation designed to corner me, to shame me back into compliance. I felt the sting of it in my chest, but I said nothing. That evening, she arrived unannounced, the extra keys jangling in her hand as she let herself into my apartment. She carried another folder, this one thicker, its pages already filled. She laid it on the table with a practiced sigh, as if she alone bore the burden of my supposed frailty. "Here," she said, sliding the papers toward me. "Power of attorney. It will end all this confusion. If you sign, we can fix everything quickly before it is too late." Her voice softened at the edges, but the urgency inside it betrayed her. She wanted my signature that night. I opened the folder. The forms were pre-filled, my name typed neatly in all the right places. Only the signature line left blank. At the bottom, I noticed a witness space already signed by a name I did not recognize. My chest tightened. She had not only prepared this, she had rehearsed it. I looked up. Her eyes searched mine, trying to measure my hesitation. "Mom, please," she pressed. "I am your daughter. I only want the best for you." But the more she spoke, the more I heard what lay beneath her words. Impatience, entitlement, a simmering resentment that I had not yet surrendered. I said only one thing. "I will not sign tonight." Her expression flickered. Anger first, then quick recovery. A sweet smile plastered over it like fresh paint on rotting wood. "That is fine," she said too quickly. "We can do it tomorrow. I will bring someone to help explain it. You will see it is simple." When she left, she kissed my cheek with cold lips and whispered, "You will thank me later." The door closed behind her, but the echo of her words stayed. For the first time I understood what she truly meant. She did not want to help me. She wanted to replace me. That night I could not sleep. The apartment was too quiet, the air too heavy. I sat at the kitchen table with the folder still in front of me, the blank line waiting like a trap. I pushed it aside and went to the cabinet where I keep the things no one else touches. Photographs, old letters, the notebooks where I wrote everything that mattered. I spread them across the table as if I needed witnesses. There was a photograph of my husband, taken in 1984, standing in front of the little cottage we rented one summer. His arm around me, his smile tired but genuine. In his letters, written during his business trips, he always ended the same way. "Save what you can. We will need it one day." I had done exactly that. Every dollar saved was a promise to him, a safeguard for myself. I opened one of my notebooks. The handwriting was uneven now, the ink faded in places, but the entries were clear. Dates of deposits. Lists of expenses. Small reminders. Pay dentist $220 on May 12th. Transfer $400 to emergency fund July 3rd. I had been careful, deliberate, precise. There was nothing confused about me, nothing diminished. My mind was still sharp. And yet my own daughter was speaking as though I were already half gone, as though I were an obstacle to be managed. I thought of her words over the past year, the rehearsed sighs, the warnings that I was too tired, too forgetful, too weak. The truth came to me with terrible clarity. If I signed, I would not only lose my money, I would lose myself. I wrote on a clean sheet of paper slowly, each line deliberate. I would call Mr. Blake, my lawyer, then speak to Mrs. Carter, the neighbor I trust. I would change the locks on the apartment and notify the bank to send alerts directly to me. And I would sign nothing without counsel present. I read the plan twice, then folded it into my notebook. The act steadied me. My fear lessened, replaced by something quieter, heavier, resolve. At 2 a.m, I put everything back into the cabinet except the list. That I kept on my nightstand beside the lamp. When I lay down, I whispered the words aloud, as if sealing them with an oath. No signatures without my lawyer. Sleep finally came, and for the first time in months, I felt that I had drawn a boundary no one could cross without stepping into the light. The next morning I called my daughter and kept my voice steady. No signatures without my lawyer, I said. We will meet at Mr. Blake's office on Friday. If you bring papers before then, I will not open the door. There was a pause, then her breath turned sharp. Unbelievable, she said. After everything I do for you. You changed my passwords without consent, I replied. You arrived with pre-filled forms and a witness I do not know. We will do this properly or not at all. She gave a short, bitter laugh. So this is how you thank me. Maybe you are not safe living alone. Maybe I should call someone. You may call whom you wish, I said calmly. My money is off the table. That day the pressure began in earnest. First came the text messages, one after another, pleading, accusing, then warning that if bills went unpaid it would be my fault. Then a longer message appeared. I spoke with a social worker. They said we can make decisions if you are impaired. Do not make this harder. I saved every word. I printed the messages and placed them neatly in my notebook. Later the phone rang again and again. When I did not answer, she left a message. Do you want a nursing home? Is that what you want? Because I cannot keep doing this. I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. Then I wrote her a short message. All visits by appointment. Friday at my lawyer's office. That evening the buzzer sounded. A man's voice followed, oily and rehearsed. Good evening, ma'am. I am a notary, a family friend. Here to help finalize a simple power of attorney. Very standard. I stood back from the door. You will not be entering, I said. Any documents must go through my attorney. My daughter's voice cut in shrill. Mom, stop embarrassing me. Just sign so we can fix this. It is for your safety. For my safety, I said. You will leave. There was whispering in the hallway. Then her tone shifted, sweet on the surface, sharp underneath. You know I only want to help. Do you not trust your own daughter? I answered with facts. The bank stopped a transfer I did not authorize. You left pre-filled forms with a false witness line. You have threatened to involve outsiders to override me. This is harassment. We meet with my lawyer or not at all. The man tried again, still smooth. Ma'am, truly this is simple. Just a few initials. No, I said. My money is off the table. They left soon after. I noted the encounter in my records and stored the copy of my door camera footage. The following day her tactics changed. She called friends, my doctor's office, even a cousin, whispering that I was slipping. Messages came from people worried about me. I called each one back with the same words. I am well. A financial boundary has been set. Please do not intervene. That afternoon, an email arrived with documents attached. Durable power, healthcare proxy, joint account authorization. My name was already typed into each line. At the end her sentence stood out like a blade. If you truly loved me, you would let me help. I replied once. No signatures without counsel present. Further attempts to pressure me will be documented. Then I turned off the phone, made tea and sat by the window. The world outside moved on as always. Inside I held my own ground. Fear had not vanished, but it no longer ruled me. What guided me now was the phrase I repeated with calm certainty. My money is off the table. Friday arrived gray and damp, the kind of day that seeps into your bones. I put on my navy coat, slipped the folder labeled proof into my bag, and walked steadily to Mr. Blake's office. He had already arranged everything. When I entered, 2 uniformed officers were waiting by the door, their presence calm but immovable. A representative from the bank sat beside them, holding a file. At the far end of the table was an empty chair reserved for my daughter and her guest. Mr. Blake leaned toward me. "Stay factual. Say only what you know. We will handle the rest." A few minutes later she arrived. My daughter swept in with her usual bright smile, a man following behind her. The same notary, Daniel Cox. She glanced at the officers but did not falter. She carried herself as though she were rescuing me from my own confusion. "Mom," she said warmly, too warmly, "I brought Daniel so we can finally settle everything. You will feel so much better once this is done." I looked at her without rising. "Sit," I said. She blinked, then laughed lightly, as if humoring a child. They sat. Mr. Blake opened his folder. "Before we begin, I must address a few irregularities." He placed the forged transfer request on the table. "This document was submitted in Mrs. Howard's name. Mrs. Howard, is this your signature?" I leaned forward steady. "No, it is not mine." The bank representative nodded. "Our handwriting expert confirmed it is inconsistent. We flagged it immediately. In addition, an application for a loan was submitted under her identity. That too was stopped." For the first time my daughter's face faltered. She glanced at Daniel, who kept his eyes on the papers. "Mom, you must be mistaken," she said quickly. "Maybe you forgot. You said you wanted help." I opened my folder and laid out the photographs of her messages. The officers leaned closer to read. Each line was clear. "If you do not sign, you may end up in a nursing home. If you loved me, you would let me help. I spoke with a social worker. They can override you." "Are these your words?" Mr. Blake asked. She flushed. "I was just worried about her. You twist everything." I placed the bank scans beside them. 2 forged signatures, both bearing my name. Then I handed over Mrs. Carter's written statement that she had seen my daughter photographing documents without my knowledge. The silence grew heavy. Even Daniel shifted uneasily in his chair. At last my daughter's composure cracked. She leaned forward, her voice rising. "This is paranoia. She has been forgetting things. She cannot handle her accounts anymore. I was trying to protect her." I answered without raising my voice. "I have taught for 40 years. I kept notebooks of every expense, every bill. I recall each deposit I have made since 1983. There is nothing confused about me. What you call protection is theft." Mr. Blake gestured to the officers. One of them spoke evenly. "We have reviewed the documents. Forgery and attempted fraud are criminal matters. The investigation will proceed." My daughter's eyes widened, her voice sharp, now desperate. "You cannot do this to me. I am your daughter." I met her gaze steadily. A daughter protects her mother. She does not erase her. Daniel tried to intervene, holding up a hand. "Perhaps we should calm down. This is a family matter." The bank representative cut him off. "When forged applications are submitted under a customer's name, it is not a family matter. It is a crime." The last of her mask slipped then. She turned to me, her face hard, her words like stone. "Fine. Keep your money. You will die alone." I folded my hands on the table. My money is off the table, and my life is my own. The officers stood. My daughter pushed back her chair with a scrape but said nothing more. Daniel collected his briefcase, his confidence drained. They were escorted out of the room without another word. When the door closed, the silence left behind felt different. Not heavy with fear but lighter, emptied of threat. Mr. Blake touched the folder before him. "We will file for a restraining order today. Your accounts are secure. The bank has placed permanent alerts. No further action can be taken without your direct presence." I nodded, exhaling slowly, as though I had been holding my breath for months. Outside, the air smelled of rain, but I lifted my face to it. For the first time in a long while, the sky did not press down. It opened. When I returned home from Mr. Blake's office, I felt the apartment as if for the first time. The silence was no longer suffocating. It was mine again. I placed the folder labeled proof into the cabinet, But this time I did not feel fear. I felt order. The first task was practical. I called the locksmith back and requested new locks once more, with keys cut only for me. I contacted the bank to confirm that every alert would go directly to my phone and by paper letter to my address. Mr. Blake filed the cancellation of all powers of attorney, both valid and attempted, and recorded my refusal to grant any new authority. The police paperwork arrived the next day. A restraining order was issued. My daughter would not be permitted to enter my building or contact me outside of legal proceedings. I signed the forms calmly without shaking hands. There was no triumph in it, only necessity. The days that followed were quiet, but no longer lonely. Mrs. Carter came by with fresh bread. She sat at my kitchen table and said, "You did the right thing. We all saw her pressing you. Now the truth is out." I nodded, grateful not for her pity but for her recognition. Friends I had not seen in months called again. I accepted invitations I used to decline. I went back to the church circle on Sunday morning, and when I walked in, the women embraced me as though I had been gone for years. I realized I had been absent long before I admitted it. When the first court hearing was scheduled, I felt no dread. I carried my folder of evidence, placed it on the table, and let the documents speak. My daughter tried to argue, tried to cry, tried to twist words into excuses. But the record was stronger. Forged signatures, bank alerts, written testimony, transcripts of her own messages. The judge read silently, then ruled firmly. The restraining order would remain. The investigation would proceed. I looked at my daughter only once across the courtroom. Her face was tight with resentment, but I no longer searched it for love. I understood something final. Remorse would never come. The bond one had believed unbreakable was already broken. And the only way forward was without her hand on my life. Afterward, I returned to the summer cottage outside Ashford. It had been empty for years, its shutters closed, its garden overgrown. I unlocked the door and let the air inside. Dust floated in the light, but beneath it was the smell of wood and lake water, the smell of my husband's summers. I swept the floor, opened the windows, and sat on the porch as the sun fell behind the trees. The quiet here was not threatening. It was natural, alive. The cry of a bird across the water, the rustle of leaves. I breathed and felt the weight in my chest ease. In the evenings I began writing. Not just records and bills but memories. 30 notebooks lay in my cabinet, each filled with numbers, deposits, expenses. Now I opened a fresh one and wrote the beginning of my story. My daughter said she cared for me, but in reality she was preparing my disappearance. The words looked steady on the page, not as a wound but as a record. Weeks passed. I painted the shutters pale green. I planted tomatoes and herbs in the small garden bed. Friends came on weekends bringing sandwiches and laughter. When I looked in the mirror, I saw the same wrinkles, the same gray hair. But behind my eyes I saw something, returned myself. I understood then the lesson that had cost me nearly everything. Love is not money. Boundaries are not cruelty. And the truth, once revealed, will always stand stronger than lies. On the last night of summer, I sat by the lake with a notebook on my lap. The water was still, the air cool. From a distance, I heard children's laughter from another cottage. I smiled, closed my book, and let the quiet hold me. Life continued. Not perfect, not without scars, but free. And above all, safe within the boundaries I had finally drawn. My money was off the table. My freedom was back in my hands. This story is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. If you want to discover the rest, subscribe and stay with me. Give this video a like if it left something on your mind. And tell me in the comments, what do you think hides behind this kind of silence in people's lives?